Hello, if you're listening to this on my podcast or watching this on the YouTube channel, welcome to you. In the series of doing little interviews with people that I've known for many years and people I've not known for quite so many years, just sort of having those conversations about how they've developed themselves and their future proofing. So it's great pleasure to say hello to Michael Kirby today. Hello, Michael, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm very well, thank you. Enjoying this lovely weather.
Yes.
And we're going to sit and have a conversation with Michael about how he's self-managed and how he's self-developed through his education and how he's taken that into the working environment, which I always find a fascinating subject. We'll find out what he's learned learnt along the way, what's gone well and what hasn't gone so well, what great advice he's been given, and perhaps if he could wind the clock back, is there anything he'd have done slightly differently? So that's all great sort of in the presence of what he's been doing, but then obviously at the end of the interview I'm really interested to find out how Michael sees the future in terms of his self-development and perhaps career progression and moving forward, and how he's going to future-proof himself for the future. So very quickly then, just to start us off, could you sort of give us a bit of an overview of your career so far and what areas you're currently working in, Michael?
Yeah, definitely. How quickly it'll be, I'm not too sure, but I will do my best. I completed A-levels at school. Someone sort of said, you need to sort of career out now. And someone mentioned, find a career in something you love doing. I was an avid rugby player. I wasn't very good in respect to other people, but I very much enjoyed the game. So I decided to get into coaching. I did a 3-year bachelor degree in sports coaching science at St Mary's University in Twickenham, and set my sights on becoming a rugby coach. I picked up sort of small jobs here and there, coaching young kids. It can be likened to herding cats at that age. But it was one of those things where you could sort of pick up lots of different little jobs and make a career out of it through that way. A little bit further down the line, and I started working in my dad's gym, sort of family gym. Bit of everything really, all the jobs. Worked under the manager there, who had a big sort of background in the leisure industry. Bit further on from that, I finally landed a job working full-time as a rugby coach in a school. First salaried coaching job. My boss was ex-England captain Lewis Moody, which was pretty cool to say the least. That was fantastic, really enjoyable job, getting paid every day to do what I love doing. And then just through a few different changes, got offered a job in financial technology about 6 months ago, and decided for a bit of a change. The job was a lot closer to home. There were different progressions in different areas that I fancied giving a go. It was one of those sort of if not now, when situations. So yeah, sort of broad background where I am now. I'm still doing a bit of the gym stuff. So I manage the gym overall, do that 1 day a week. Oversee. It's been a blessing having worked in loads of different capacities in the gym, that I have a good overall understanding of how it all works. And then I work for a company called Account Technologies, working in their new ventures side of the business. So we're creating new products that are slightly different to what we've currently got, but complement what we've currently got as well. So
yeah, brilliant. Okay, and that's fascinating how diverse the 3 areas are. So what would you say you're sort of moving from your education into the working environment? What have you sort of really learned about yourself?
I didn't have the most stereotypical university life. I got my St Mary's was my second choice, which meant I didn't have any university accommodation. So I was living in a house in my first year as opposed to being in halls. And I probably did what not a lot of people do at uni, and actually studied and learned quite a lot. Not to degrade anyone else that goes and does the uni life, but
I think you got it spot on, actually, especially in the first year.
Oh, well, yeah, completely. But I found and developed an understanding and a passion for learning, which kind of went well with the rugby coaching side of things, and to understand how I could apply that as well. It wasn't something I had before. I got on quite well at school. I went to a grammar school. Living in Buckinghamshire, we still have state grammar schools, and was fairly intelligent. But it was there that I really discovered a passion for learning and wanting to better myself and develop myself. So I'd say I've sort of taken that approach through into my coach development and learning. Also coming straight into an industry which is at the very top end dominated by people that haven't been in the industry very long. Sports coaches at the top end tend to have fallen out of playing. So it was one of those things that I was determined to prove people wrong in, that you didn't need to be a good player to be able to coach, and that I was going to develop myself and learn things above and beyond what other people knew in the industry.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I did was very steeped in scientific research and things that I'd learned during my degree to be able to actually put into the practice.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I think I've taken that sort of through the different other areas. If I found myself in a situation I'm not very well adept in, I just learn as much as I can about the situation so that I can have informed conversations and understand what's going on around me as best as possible.
And how have you then adapted that learning into your technology role?
I suppose it's a little bit different in that the skills I've developed in sports coaching have then been applied into a new working role. So it tends to be more my organisation and management side of things coming into play in the financial technology side of things, which are things I've developed through my sports coaching, managing different stakeholders above and below you. You're working as a coach, you've got directors of rugby above you, you've got parents who have a stake in what happens with their kids. You've got the kids below you that have their own views on things. So I think that's what I brought into that role. And then coming into an industry which I have absolutely no prior experience in, it's just been learn as much as you can, do as much as you can so you can learn as much as you can so that I can do the job.
Yeah. And, does that sort of answer the question about how you're continuing to keep learning at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. I suppose I've put myself in different situations I'm not used to being in, I'm not comfortable in, and I'm kind of learning as I go with them. My previous or my career to date has been full of trial and error situations where you try something with calculated risks, it doesn't work, and you change something and you try again. And also having almost three different areas that I work in and am involved in, I can draw experience from different areas of that. So if something hasn't worked in a certain area, I can draw upon that experience into another domain and apply that so that I don't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me saying, you seem to have great self-awareness all around this. Where have you sort of got that from? Is that through, because you are developing people, within the sporting environment? I'm developing people in their careers and their working environment. But do you feel that you've then looked at yourself to develop this self-awareness because you're encouraging other people to do it as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably, like you say, it stems from an understanding of how people learn and experience things, and realizing that it's not only me influencing that on others, but how do I fit into that? Yeah. How do I learn from other people? How do I create an environment where I'm learning and developing myself?
Yes.
Because I don't think it happens naturally and automatically. I think, or even if it doesn't, I think it can be maximized and optimized if you think about how you're involved in situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I take an active interest in my own learning, I'd say, listening to podcasts and audiobooks, reading books, etc. You
see it as a part of being a professional, is you're constantly learning. Okay, I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I
think I'm drawing from the sports side of things, but Eddie Jones, the current England rugby coach, sort of got a saying or something along the lines of, if you stop learning, then you're dead in the water. It's like a shark that needs to keep swimming. If you stop, you're now outdated. You're now not as useful as you were when you were previously learning. Things,
Yeah.
you know, if you can honestly sit there and say, I know everything about my domain, then congratulations to you. But if you can honestly say that, then it takes very few people, I think, that can honestly say that. I think a lot of people still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because the world we're in at the moment, there's so much uncertainty. We're not sure which direction we're going in, and it could be argued, and I'm sorry if I upset anyone by saying this, that sometimes people of my generation will turn around and go, yeah, but I've got 20, 30 years experience in that. And I go, good on you. And they've got the knowledge and the skills. That's been great for the last 20, 30 years, but is it what's going to be needed for the future? Because sometimes we spend too much time talking about what we have done, you know, the badges I've got and how great I am, but it's the value you can bring for the future. And I think, you know, what you're saying there is really important. So in, you know, juggling all these different things, obviously you're not a typical bloke that you can multitask by the sounds of it, because I certainly can't. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Or,
just anything that sticks out that you go, yeah, that really helped.
I'm going to have to pick the name up after I drop it, but so I've met Johnny Wilkinson a couple of times.
Ooh, yeah.
And I've had the very, you know, very high luck of being able to play touch rugby with him.
Did you catch him?
No, oh my goodness, you wouldn't know that he'd stopped playing. It was ridiculous. It didn't help that it was a very rainy day and I'd chosen to not bring any boots and was running around in trainers sliding
Good
all over
excuse.
the place. Yeah, very good excuse. It was so noticeable that when I showed my dad the picture of us playing together, the first thing he said was, "Are you wearing trainers?" Yes, yeah, I was wearing trainers.
Wow.
But I asked him, yeah, he'd been doing a lot of coaching, just finishing his career. I said, yeah, what's the best piece of advice you've been given? And he said, and I didn't realise until this quite later, but he paraphrased Gandhi. He said, be the change you want to see. So I've been in a situation where I was probably just coming out of university at the time. I got involved a lot in rugby and the community level. It's easier to go up the ranks in a community environment where everyone's a volunteer. And I was frustrated with a lot of things I saw. You know, it was a bit harking back to what you said. It was a kind of, you know, we've always done it this way situation. So I made it my prerogative to go out and just do the things that I wanted to see others do. If I could do that, I had more of a leg to stand on when I challenged others or asked for support. So I'd say that's been something that I've taken through all my areas. In the gym setting, we've come to realise, our team, that it's not just about the fitness offering, but it's about the culture you create. People go to the gym because it's a community feel. So, and that has to start with me. If I'm running the business with it, I have to then embody that culture for the team to then embody the culture, which then seeps out to our members. So, be the change you want to see.
We like that.
Gandhi through Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah. Okay. It's because I think that's always important. If we quote other people, we need to tell people where we got it from. But you got two names in there, so good on you. I like that. So if you ever do that as a slide in a presentation, you've got to have both names up there.
Yeah.
You can't just have the one name up there. And I think I would go for that. So what parts have you enjoyed the most?
I've actually really enjoyed the rugby side of things and the autonomy that community sport gives. You know, in a corporate setting, you know, there is a business behind everything you do. There's cash flow. There's micro politics with different people you're working with. You know, it's people's livelihoods at the end of the day. They need the money to pay rent or mortgages and bills, etc. So I completely understand why, but there is just that extra element of autonomy and freedom in community sport and volunteering in general, I think.
Yeah.
And that's something I've tried to bring into the working environment as best I can. You know, it's shown me that trust can be conveyed in certain ways, and I've tried to bring that into the gym environment, in that if one of the guys has something they want to do, it's not, don't run it, you don't need to run it past me if you genuinely believe I'm happy with it. I trust you to go do that, make the mistakes. That's fine as long as they're not catastrophic and you learn from them. So yeah, I'd say hand on heart, the thing I've enjoyed the most is probably the community sport element.
Yeah, brilliant. And the biggest challenges
Um,
in your working world?
Initially, coming out of university and full-time education, expecting to get a job that I was nowhere near ready for. I thought, having got a degree and learned everything about not everything, but a large amount about the domain that I was going into work in, that it'd be easy just to jump in halfway up the ladder. So I've enjoyed the journey of it, but I think the thing I've struggled with is gaining the experience to then draw upon later on, and gaining the experience which then has the knock-on effect to have the confidence to do more and different things. Yeah, finishing university, I'd have never thought I'd get a job or be working in financial technology. But the experience along the way has allowed me to feel confident enough to take a job in a completely different industry.
Yes, yeah.
But I've found it a challenge along the way, because it's not something you can see, experience. I think it's something you demonstrate in situations. I was getting very frustrated about having quite low-level jobs at one point in rugby, and I spoke to a few people that were a bit higher up than me, and they sort of said, well, it sounds like you're doing everything right, keep doing it and it'll come along. And I was kind of like, well, if I'm doing everything right, why is it not happening now? And it's only looking back on that I go, oh, I was doing everything right. I needed to just have more time doing it right before the opportunities came up, and I had more experience to be able to use in those opportunities.
Yeah. So that links very nicely onto my next question, in terms of what advice would you give other people making that transition from their education into an environment that they've got a real passion for? What sort of advice would you give them?
Just get as much experience as you can in as many areas as you can. I can't see any drawbacks to having a breadth of understanding of how different jobs and different areas work within an area that you want to work in. I think, and the challenge of that is, how do you go about getting it? For me, it was somewhat easy in the fact that there is a volunteer and a community side to the area I wanted to get involved in. If my passion was financial technology and I wanted to go from university into that, I think I'd have struggled more, in that you can't just go down your local financial technology company and volunteer for a day. Or maybe you can, I don't know. But
internships and things like that.
Right. So yeah, there are ways about it.
And it could be argued that what you've done is, you haven't just sat there and waited for someone to come and tap you on the shoulder and say, here's a job. You've actually gone and put yourself out there, which is, for a lot of people, is a lot harder than going and getting an internship, because you've really got to say, look, here I am, I want to get involved, and I'm prepared to put the time and effort in, whereas sometimes people aren't willing to do that. So I think people do respect that immensely for what you've done there.
I can see that point. I think that's something that I would advocate that anyone does, is go out and just do things as much as possible, because you won't realise how that experience will benefit you later until those new experiences occur and you go, I've got something that I can use in this situation from prior experience. You may not have expected it to be connected at the time, but you can draw on previous experiences, even if they are in very different areas.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good, actually. So that's brilliant on what you've done and how you've got to where you have. And I will summarise it a bit after the next question, but how do you see developing Micheal in the future, and so you continue to be relevant and value, no matter which area you decide to really focus on in the future?
I think to a certain degree, not narrowing down on something in the future and keeping the broad spectrum of things. I think, given the chance, I know this is sort of something you want to talk about as well, so jumping around a bit, but had I given the chance again, I wouldn't have narrowed myself down to sports coaching as a degree and a path for path for my career initially. It's something that I know I'd be very passionate about, but I think it somewhat limits me in the situation I'm in now. So I'm now trying to undo that work, or add to that by broadening my experiences again. Different areas of different things within management, within any area that I can get involved in and understanding. I've got a book on negotiation upstairs. It's something that applies to a lot of different things. And there's lots I've learned through coaching, and there's lots I've learned through managing a gym facility that I draw upon. But I'd love to have more experience and more breadth of knowledge, which I think will allow me to move where I want, or move where my career takes me, as opposed to, I'm not sure about that move, I'm not sure about that job, I don't have the relevant experience. If I spend time on a broader spectrum of skills and understanding, then I'll have that freedom more, I think.
Yeah, yeah. But there again, I think you can take a lot of credit in the way that you've adapted into the technology organization from the coaching. And sometimes you just have to give it a go. I know we all have what we call impostor syndrome, where we sort of worry about what everyone thinks and the confidence levels go. When I stand up in front of large groups of people, I quite often stand there and think, why in the hell do they all want to listen to me? I expect they're thinking the same. But then I have to convince myself I'm the best person in the room to give this talk because of my research, my background, and everything else. And sometimes we have to talk ourselves into that positive mindset, and to help to build our self-esteem. I think self-esteem and confidence is an area that we don't practice enough of.
No, I agree.
There's other skills that we do practice, but we very rarely practice our self-esteem confidence. It can be practiced. I'm living proof of that. I left school with 1 O level. I never understood academia at all. I've just been brilliant at learning from my experiences. So I think what you've said there is great. So sort of to summarize then, I think, following your passion is so important, and things you're really keen on. And I think with your coaching, you can easily transfer that into a more corporate working environment. And we perhaps talk more after. Organizations could help you make that, get you those accreditations. I love the fact that you are literally juggling 3 different positions, and adapting the learning from the different areas. So they overlap, and your self-awareness. And I think sometimes when I have these conversations and do coaching, sometimes people's self-awareness is, you have to sort of hit them around the head with a big fish and tell them to wake up and get them to realize what reality is like. But you seem incredibly self-aware, and I love the fact that you've really embraced that constant learning, which is so important. And if anybody is watching this, and this is the first time you've watched one of these interviews, I've recently done 5 interviews with some other young adults in their first 2 years in the working environment. And all of them kept talking about being inquisitive and constantly learning. And I think some of us other generations need to sort of take that on board and never stop learning, which you've already talked about. And I think the way you've just put yourself out there, especially with your volunteering on the rugby side, there's a lot of people who, what I call, they've all got a viewpoint of how something should be run, and they're all very keen to give people lots of advice. And as I say, well, you don't need advice. We need help. Go and get involved.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I mean, I was at my local football club at a big meeting, and somebody said to the chairman, well, the advice I'd like to give you, and the chairman turned around in front of about several hundred people, and it is absolute classic. He says, there's one thing I'll never be short of in being the chairman of this club, and that's advice. And everyone give him a round of applause. And he says, if you'd really like to make a difference, please get involved. We could do some help in so many different areas. And so I think you're brilliant for going out there and get involved. Because quite often, be careful how I word this, David, but it's quite often people say, well, if I'm not going to get paid, I'm not doing it. but you know, and you are out there getting involved. So I think that's really great. So thank you very much for your time. I think those
You're
real
welcome.
key learning points I'm going to take away and think about as well. And I must admit, I've got a little bit out of sync with regards to doing volunteering work. I used to do a lot of coaching in the cricket, in the football, and I was chairman of the Parents Association at schools and things like that because no one else would do it. But yeah, I think this has really sort of got me thinking I need to get out there again and sort of offer some assistance and help, not advice. They don't need that. They need assistance and help. And I love your passion for your learning as well. So thank you very much, and
No,
I look
thank
forward
you.
to hopefully seeing you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, enjoy the lockdown as best you can.
Yeah, will do. Okay, thanks very much.
To do.